Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of On Your Guard. This is actually a surprise episode, kind of, because we were supposed to be interviewing Kirsten Elena. We had some internet connection issues, but we have David Talley, who is an awesome photographer and marketing director based in Portland. He jumped on at the last minute and is fixing our issues. So thanks for joining us, David.
Maybe not the technical issues, but yeah, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. So before we get into anything, I was perusing your website and I see that on your client list, you have worked for Jack's Pizza, Tombstone Pizza, and Blaze Pizza. Mm-hmm. I like pizza. What's that all about, and how do I get pizza clients?
Yeah, so those were actually shot through a stock agency that I was working for at the time.
Okay.
So there was like a bridge to connect there. I didn't really like those. Those weren't the fun jobs. I guess I got a lot of free pizza, which was awesome. But
that's really all I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, totally. Lots of free pizza. Got to take photos of it, which was really fun, but definitely not the best content. I don't think I would ever put that on my website.
Yeah, we've all done those jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, that was more or less a joke because everybody knows that I love pizza. I talk about it a lot on Instagram. Okay, so you're into visual marketing. You have a visual marketing agency. What's that?
Yeah, so Talley Media is basically like that agency is all designed around helping businesses develop a sort of set of content that resonates well with their audience visually, and thus helps them sell more of their product or helps them sell their service. Basically, what we do is we connect with our clients. We create a systematic breakdown of like what the user of their product or their service would experience, and then we represent that visually in the images or videos that we create for them. We roll that out to their audience with some like Instagram strategy or Facebook strategy, whatever market they're hoping to tap into socially. So that's kind of the service we offer with Talley Media.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I'm an Instagrammer, for more lack of a better term. And so like there's a lot of content creation stuff that I've done in the past. I know a lot of our viewers are interested in that sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to let's get kind of a background, like where did you start as a photographer and then kind of take us to now?
Yeah, totally. So, so I've been shooting photos for I started when I was 17, so it's been about 7 years, actually shooting as something that I wanted to pursue. And initially I began shooting photos as a fine artist. So the way that it started for me was I found a blog where this guy was doing a photo every day for a year. A big thing, a couple of years ago was the 365 projects where people were like shooting photo every day for a year. That's basically how I got my start. Okay. And I knew nothing. I knew that I liked shooting photos with a camera, and I liked the emotional sort of aspect of photos more than I liked landscapes or anything like that. And so I just started creating art every single day, and eventually found myself shooting photos full time for different people, different clients, and then eventually that transitioned into the fine art transitioned into like me building a lot of marketing stuff, because what I had to do during that time was market the work that I was creating. So it was less about me creating the art at that point, maybe a few years in, and it was more about how do I get this art in front of the people that I want to see it most, and then leverage that sort of viewership as a way to generate an income for myself. And so during that time, I developed a lot of marketing skills, which led me to the role that I'm in now with a startup in the photography industry, which helps you manage your business online with, if you're if you have a wedding photography business or a portrait photography business or whatever, we help you manage that business online. And I'm cool director for that company, which is called Picker. So there's been this very natural kind of progression of things that have happened, and they're all kind of tied in. Marketing and photography go very hand in hand, especially with social media and the growth of technology. So that's sort of where I started and where I'm at now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. And it's almost like you're kind of giving back. You're taking the knowledge that you've accumulated along the way,
Mhm.
and kind of with this, you glitched for me when you said the name of the company. Can you plug the name of the company again?
Oh yeah, it's called Picker, Picr.
Okay, I've actually heard of that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So they've been around for a while, have done a couple pivots in their business model. We're a startup, so that's pretty common for just this industry and the tech industry in general. But
Sure.
Initially we started as a marketplace for photographers and clients to find photographers that they wanted to book. And now we're doing a business management software for photographers to manage their business online.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick, if I had to pick one of my biggest weaknesses, it's definitely business. I went from kind of similar to you, like taking pictures for fun,
Yeah.
to people kind of paying me for portraits. And then I got into the world of like senior portraits and started weddings and that sort of thing. And then I hit a point where it was like, okay, if I want to do this like full time, I'm going to have to invest in a studio, or at least like a rental space for a studio. And I'm going to have to really boost my business presence and sell prints and packages. And at that point I was like, I feel like that's going to suck all the fun out of photography for me. So I kind of took a step back from that, and just started almost like you said with the 365 deal. I started just posting, and I've always been more of a landscape photographer, so that's where I headed, and just started doing that stuff, and then have now leveraged that to come full circle back to shooting clients in that space. So
that's so awesome, man. Yeah, I think one of the things that people miss, and when you're trying to build a business based on something you love, I think one of the best pieces of advice that I can give is really just focus on the thing that you're good at, not the things that you're not good at. I think that's
right.
That's where I've fallen short in my career, where like I try to do too many things instead of just, focusing on the one thing that I'm good at, which actually, I did feel like I had talent in photography. I enjoyed what I created. I thought that, I had grown to a level as a photographer where I was happy with my work.
Right.
But then it came to a point where like there was no more growth after that. And not that I had grown to the level of like I never needed to improve as a photographer, but just like there wasn't any challenge in it for me anymore. More of a challenge was marketing. So that's kind of how the transition happened for me.
Yeah.
I think now that I've dived completely headfirst into being a marketing director, it's shown to me what my true strengths are, and that's been really cool. And being able to focus on that instead of trying to, stratify myself across a bunch of different
right
has been really beneficial to just like personal growth, but also career growth as well.
Yeah, I actually just had a conversation with someone last night talking about it's kind of the same thing of like identifying your strengths and then really focusing on those, because I'm a graphic designer. I'm also a photographer. I've shot video. Like you can diversify, but you can only really be mediocre at a ton of things. But when you really focus on one thing, and then one thing that I've learned is like where your weaknesses are, surround yourself with people that can like fill those gaps. So yeah,
that's so true.
So I'm going to interrupt real quick our conversation to talk about our giveaway today. We are giving away a VO Discover 38 messenger bag. This bag is really cool. Has a lot of space for internal gear, obviously. It's padded, but the biggest feature of this bag is that it has a tripod section in the bottom where you can carry your tripod and kind of stow it away. And it's great for travel. We have the, you can mount it to your luggage rack thing and everything. So we're giving one of these away. Comment or shoot us a question to win. We'll give it away at the end of the weekend to let people that aren't watching live, give them a chance to win. So all right, back to our conversation. Just talking about surrounding ourselves with people. I guess like you talked a little bit about like pre-show when we had like 5 minutes to figure out what we were going to talk about today. You talked about partnering with different companies and how you kind of created a lifestyle to travel.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. I know you've transitioned away from that, but
Yeah, I mean, basically, so one of my biggest skills, I had this really fantastic mentor through, my late teens and early 20s who helped me identify what some of my strengths were as just like kind of as a person. And his recommendation was that I focus on building communities. So like I have this natural skill. Sorry, my computer's going off.
No, you're good.
I have this natural sort of ability that I found in myself to build communities and bring people together. And so and that obviously translates into where I'm at now as a marketing director and a community manager for this company. And so I focused on, how do I build these communities, these local communities in different countries where, if I want to go to Australia, where my wife is from, I can go there and have a network of people that I can tap into and hang out with and use as an audience for, if I wanted to help show them a product that I'm trying to promote, or if I wanted to bring them on some sort of adventure hosted by a company. So I spent a lot of my time as a photographer early in my career building a community and then building sub-communities. So, not just the US, but in places like India or Brazil was another really big community for me, or Australia was another big community for me. Mm-hmm. What I did with those communities essentially was I had this network of people that I could travel to. And on the flip side of it, I could basically leverage my network in those countries and my influence in those countries with those local communities as a way of helping different companies in the US tap into those markets. So one of the things that I did in 2015 with Vanguard actually and a few other companies was we partnered alongside Vanguard, and I think we partnered with G-Tech, and there was I think one or two other companies that we worked with during this trip. And I traveled to 6 or 7 different countries over the course of 3 months and helped you guys promote really like the first line of the VO tripods. And that was so much fun. And I was basically able to bring a product that I loved and I believed in to a network and a community that didn't yet have access to that gear, and a network that the company also didn't have access to. So it ended up being a really beneficial thing to be able to travel and work with, companies that needed to tap into those networks. Right. And using that as a way to build a lifestyle where really I could just travel wherever I wanted to, wherever I had, the network built and wherever I wanted to go. Right.
That's really cool. I like how strategically you were thinking about that. I mean, we talk a lot about just social media and community and everything, but it's really interesting to hear how you kind of strategically aligned yourself and built these communities where you needed them to be built, and then kind of monetize that. That's cool. I think it's something people need to hear.
Yeah. Well, and I think, one of the disclaimers that I want to make with that sort of business model is that it's very hard to sustain. Yeah. You have to have a lot of energy. I don't think anyone should, you see a lot of people that are like, you get like ads. I get ads for it all the time where it's like, oh, drop everything, quit your job, travel blogger, and like travel the world and get paid to travel the world. And it's like, okay, that's great, but they're selling you on a lifestyle and they're selling you a marketing chorus that's, only going to help you so much. Really, that lifestyle should be a part of your business. It should be the totality of your business.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's awesome. We have a question?
Yeah, we have a question from Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Regarding focusing on what you're good at and your strengths, do you ever feel like it gets stale or like what you are best at changes over time?
Yes. Yeah. So Dave, to answer your question, also great name, by the way. To answer your question about like your strengths. Basically, I didn't recognize, okay, there's 2 things. Yes, your strengths will change over time. And so that's like the first thing. Your strength, my original strength was not marketing. The marketing skill came to me through the necessity to get my photography work in front of other people. So that was like a skill that came by the wayside. So I originally started with this really fantastic talent in photography and building up that talent. And then it not immediately, over time shifted to a marketing skill that is what I now leverage in my career path, etc. Also, another thing if you don't know what you're good at, ask people that are around you. So like your friends, pick like 5 of your closest friends and say, hey, what am I good at and what am I terrible at? Have them list like, 3 things that they know you're really good at and 3 things that they think you're really bad at. And then get that data, compare it amongst the 5 people that you ask. And you might have a really clear indication once you see sort of the pattern amongst those 5 people to determine like what your skill set is, and like kind of what your strengths are.
No, it's pretty beneficial. I like that.
Yeah.
And you have to disclaim that you aren't going to get ticked off at those people for calling you out, because it is constructive criticism. Like you have to learn those things. There
has to be a level of, I think self-awareness is so big in being a successful anything. If you want to be a successful content creator, if you want to be a successful photographer, a successful social media person, really just any career that you want to follow that's more entrepreneurial, you have to be willing to listen to feedback and incorporate that feedback in real time.
Yeah, I like that. So let's jump over to Facebook real quick. I know this discussion wouldn't be proper unless we talked about social media a little bit. And we haven't really talked about Facebook that much on the show before, and that's your biggest platform. So when did you start utilizing Facebook as a platform? And so me and Jared actually had this conversation a while ago, because I obviously, as every photographer does, has a Facebook page. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how I want that to be diversified from all my other channels. I don't want to just post the same photos that I post on Instagram on Facebook and call it a day. Although I did that for a while, but I wanted to diversify. So what are you doing to diversify your social media? But then just talk a little bit about Facebook and when you started and how you grew and everything.
Sure, yeah. So I started with Facebook almost immediately when I started photography. I think I was maybe 2 months into shooting when I'd been posting to my personal page. This was back in like the golden age of social media with advertising.
No algorithms and all that fun stuff.
This is before algorithms, before any of that stuff had been incorporated. It's today genuinely much harder to grow an audience on the platform. And I think eventually it will be impossible to do so. Mm-hmm. But when I started, I just had this need to post my work, my personal photography work, in a place that wasn't my personal page. So I created a Facebook photography page. It was like David Talley Photography. Started posting every day, and I think one of the keys to my success with that platform, because eventually I started with, in the first year, I think I had 800 people like the page, and then 3 or 4 years later, it was at about 200,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Exponential.
Exponential. It was crazy. And I think one of the things there was 2 things that made me successful in that arena. The first, you know what, Ryan, my computer is about to die. I need to plug it in. Can we put this conversation on pause for once?
We can. Yeah, that's fine. I'll plug the bag again. So again, we are giving away a VO Discover 38 bag messenger.
How you doing?
I mean, we might as well. So this is Jared. He is the producer of the show. What have you been doing today? All right. Again, VO Discover 38 bag. Just drop us a comment to win. Ask us a question. We'll draw a name at random, probably sometime at the end of the weekend, and you could win this bag. Tripod not included, unfortunately, but you already have your tripod to go in the bag, right? David's back.
I'm back. Hey. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
I got to charge my laptop last night, and then I was working this morning on it. And the new MacBook Pros, the battery just dies so quickly. Like I turned this on at 6 a.m. and it's only 9:30, and the battery's already dead, which is
that's why I'm looking at an older MacBook Pro to buy. I'm not a big fan of the Touch Bar. Well, that's a whole other episode right there.
Well, and I don't even have the Touch Bar version, so for me, it's like I just got it without it. But jumping back to the question about social media. So for Facebook, I think one of the things that helped me go from 800 people to 200,000 people over the course of 3 or 4 years was 2 things. The first was posting consistent content and consistently good content that I knew my audience would resonate with. So I would actually listen to feedback on the work that I was creating and what people wanted to see, and I would reincorporate that into the art that I was creating. It was a really like marketed approach to creating art, which I really loved.
Yep.
It made a lot of sense for me. I was really engineering the art that my audience wanted to see, but also the art that I wanted to create.
Right.
That was cool. And posting that work every single day. One of the things that people love is, you know, it's like when you watch your favorite TV show, you know, you see it, you know, once a week for like 3 months or something. Same with photography. Photography is a very simple, bite-sized piece of content that you should be sharing with your audience every single day. If you're under the belief that, you know, you post one photo a week and it's like your best photo and you think that that's going to help you build your social media presence, you're absolutely wrong. You will get people to come in, but you will actually probably push people further away that are already part of your network, because you're competing with people that are posting work every single day and posting really damn good work every single day. Mm-hmm. And if you're not able to push content out every single day, you're going to have trouble building your audience.
Right.
So know what your audience wants. Push that content out every day. Vary the content, but don't vary it too much. So like I post photos, I post blogs, I DJ content. So I'll like find a blog post that I really love or a video that I really love, and I'll share it on my page, and that'll go viral, and then that'll help me build my audience. Sharing viral content in general on your own photography page will really help you. I shared, I think it was like that Instagram, there's like this video where like they create this like Instagram photo, but they create this giant studio in like a coffee shop, and it's like this big production. It's like a satire, funny video. It's really, really good. And that, like, I think just by sharing that alone, I grew like 1,000 people in like 3 hours or something. Wow. How many of them stick around? I don't know. And how many of them will actually stay? I don't know, because it's not my own content, but it does help you grow.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's something that I haven't really thought about before. I feel like that's thing. I've never really thought to share things outside of like what I do on my page. So,
yeah,
it's really useful.
Yeah, because I think people don't just want to see your work; they want to see work related to the industry that you're in. And I think it can end up being kind of a selfish thing when you're like, hey, just draw all the attention to yourself, and kind of say like, you always need to be looking at my work. Like, I like to celebrate the work of other creators as well. And when you do that, you create connections within the industry as well. You build friendships. I mean, that's like there's an entire different episode you could put to just like building your network with other people who are also photographers. But the second thing that I think made me really successful in the social media game and continues to make me successful in that arena, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, I think is being a real person, not trying to push my work out, but really connecting with people. So the early days of the photography, the big photography wave of like 2010, 2011, when everyone started to buy a camera and everyone started to become a professional photographer, there was a lot of people who were just trying to get their work shown and not enough people trying to connect with others who they wanted their work to be seen by. So one of the things that I did when I first started posting to Flickr was I would block out 2 to 3 hours every single day. And I would go and find other photographers on the platform, and I would leave genuine feedback on their photos. And I would just go through and like their images. I would like their posts. I would leave a comment. And that built my network from 0 people to 20,000 people in less than a year. It was crazy. Wow. Just by going and commenting on other people's work with this like genuine aspect of like, hey, I really like what you're doing. Not even asking for them to look at my photos, but just leaving a comment and saying, I really love, and I would choose a detail out of the photo that I thought they did really well. And I would say, hey, you did this really, really well. Good job. Keep it up. And that's all I would say. I would not say, come look at my stuff, whatever, because that always the crap out of me when people do that.
Yeah.
Naturally, people just want to follow you when you do leave genuine feedback. It's all about adding value to your audience.
Yeah. No, I agree. Authenticity is huge. That's one thing. Like I talked about one of our past episodes, was just, I'm a dad. I'm a new dad. My son is 14, 15, almost 15 months old now. And like, so, I've been leveraging Instagram stories both to like tell the story of my photography, but then also just to tell the story of me as a person. Cause like I'm just a normal person, and I don't know. I think authenticity goes a really long way when it comes to social media, just because at the point that we're at, I feel like you can just spot the fakeness when somebody's being fake. It's just easy.
Oh, it's so easy. Like the comments, when you see one, you just know they lack that, that I like to call the term like humanness, like lack of a real human element that people miss when they're trying to build their business. If you are genuine, you love what you do, and you connect with other people in your industry, you are naturally going to grow. There's just no way for you not to.
Right. Yeah. One of the interesting things that you touched on that I think is, I've had this debate with, not really debate, I've had this discussion with people before, is like your platform of choice, insert platform here. You talked about kind of engineering or marketing your content to your audience.
Yeah. It's
interesting because for you, that works because you're covering those two things that you love. You're covering that love of marketing, and you're covering, like, I know people that have built an audience because of a specific look, and they want to grow and they want to change, but they're afraid they're going to lose their audience. You know what I mean? So it's kind of comes back to the loving what you do thing a little bit.
Yeah. And also, I mean, for those people, they have to remember that they are the leader of their community and the leader of their audience. But like, one of the biggest issues that I see with any sort of company, any sort of individual, any sort of individual artist or content creator, is that they don't often have the capacity to iterate the content that they're creating. So like, I've been through probably now, well, I'm on my second iteration of the content that I create. So first I started with fine art photography. During the fine art photography boom, there was this huge wave led by a couple key players in about 2011, 2012, where there was just this mass creation of like fine art conceptual photography. Mm-hmm. So like, I wanted to be a part of that. So I started creating that. That's how I got my name out there. And then I fell out of love with that content, and so did my audience. So I picked up a drone and I started flying it, and I started shooting aerial photos with my drone and shooting aerial videos with my drone. And then that became the content that I now create today. And that's the content that I push. And I was so afraid for a long time to let go of the old way that I created, the old content that I created. But my new audience has converted into looking and caring about the work that I'm creating. And I've brought in even more people that I didn't have before when I was doing fine art, which is really, really cool. My audience is like multiplied.
Right. I feel like that there's some really insightful stuff there. I feel like being true to yourself. If you feel you always want to grow. I know my big thing whenever I'm talking is I'm always wanting to grow as an artist, like always want to get better, always want to evolve into something else. And if people want me stuck inside this box, if my audience wants me stuck inside the 2 years ago box, like I don't want that audience anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and people lose interest at that point. Like if you're not creating new things, if you're not diversifying, upon or expanding upon the work that you've created in the past, people will stop caring because it's the same thing over and over again. You are an entertainer at your core if you're working on social media to push your content. Yeah. Do you want to watch the same TV episode every single week? No, you don't want to watch the same TV episode. It's the same way with social media and photography.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, so let's change gears a little bit. I know you have an interesting story about your wife.
Yeah.
So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So my wife is from Australia. I think she might be watching, or she was watching just before. Her name's Kiara. She's a wedding photographer. Basically, I met Kiara because of social media. I was 18 years old, so this was 6 years ago. She was 14 when I met her on Flickr.com.
Wow.
She had left a bunch of comments on my photos, and I was like, who is this cute girl? I'm going to find her. So I added her on Facebook and quickly realized two things. She was way too young for me at the time.
Right.
At that age, at least. And she also lived in a different country. So two things that completely barred us from connecting with each other on, a fuller level.
Yep.
And, specifically from the distance standpoint, one of the things that really helped us in our relationship was the internet. I think without the internet, we would not be married, which is super crazy to think about because the internet is a relatively new invention.
Yeah, right.
On the scope of a human scale, humanity scale. And we just continued to connect with each other. We used art as a way to collaborate and build our relationship. And that's ultimately, like, I think that points back to what social media is trying to accomplish at its core, is a human relationship experience digitized.
Yeah.
I think people forget that the best thing to do on social media is continue to be a real human. There's no change when you get behind a screen. So with Kiara and I, like, when we were developing our friendship, you know, for 6 years, we developed our friendship before we actually met each other. What is that, right? I'm trying to think about the math. Yeah, so she's 20 now. We met when she was 18. So yeah, 4 years before. So we developed our relationship for 4 years through social media as like real people, real connections. We like even took it offline where like we would send each other letters and gifts over the course of 4 years just as friends, until we finally met in person and carried the relationship that started on the internet to real life. And there was really no hard transition from that. I think because we both carried a level of like real human interaction with our social media, we didn't have trouble navigating the same relationship, you know, on soil.
That's awesome. I like that. And I like something that you said triggered a thought for me. Like, everybody's there's like kind of the people that bash social media because it kind of takes us out of actual human interaction. And when you were talking about that, like, social media isn't a replacement for human interaction. It's kind of like a supplement for human interaction. Like, one of the reasons that I got so sucked into Instagram when I did was because I would meet these people online, learn their work, learn kind of the personality that they would, you know, kind of express online. And then I would meet them in person and get to shoot with them and form like actual human relationships. Yeah.
And it's so cool. It is like, it's almost like another limb or another brain of like a human is like the ability to connect with others on social media and facilitate, you know, the connection of, I think that's the biggest thing is like, it's a facilitator of conversation and communication and a facilitator of relationships, but it is not meant to replace those relationships. And the same thing can be applied when you're building an audience. So continuing to be a real human, I think one of the best things that's come out in the last year has been, you know, Facebook Live and Instagram Live and the ability to leverage those forms of content as a way to develop a real authentic reach with your audience. I think people are underusing those forms of content, and I think that they should be using them more, because when you put a real name and a real face to the name and a real personality to the name behind, you know, all the text and all the photos that you see online, you get to you like fall in love with those people. I mean, you can also hate those people, but fall in love with them because you realize, wow, they're just real humans. They're just like me, and I can do that too, you know?
Right. Oh, I think that's a perfect place for us to stop. Thank you again for joining us and saving the show, David. You really did save the show for us. Thank you for your insight. I'm sure everybody's going to get a lot from this. Again, like and comment to win this bag. We'll announce a winner at the end of the weekend. We'll see you next time.
Foam party! Foam party!